You're listening to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch movies and TV about the internal tension between the desire for independence versus the need to belong.
That's deep. I thought you were going to say like the desire for independence versus the need for someone to deliver a Gatorade to you.
The need for an atom bomb.
Moment. Yeah. The need for an ice cold Gatorade dropped by a drone right in front of you.
Well, and what is that if not the need to belong?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, or the need for instant convenience and robotic companionship. God, this is I'm Jodie.
I'm Andrea.
And we're going to cover 7 through 9 of Pluribus.
Jodie,
This show is so good.
The show is so good. Like, I knew it was good.
What a treat at the end of the year, man.
What a beautiful season of television.
Yeah.
Just to start, I've texted in the past. I sent you a text right after I watched episode 9. And I think our conversation really kind of like helped me clarify my feelings about the show. It was a quick one, but I just said to you, like, I think this is the best first season of television I've seen since Lost. And then at the same time, you sent a text to me that said a really specific vision and story. And I said something totally new and self-assured. And I feel like that's exactly what it is. It's like unique, singular, totally different, and also really confident.
Yeah.
And I think that's tough, to be doing something that it feels like nobody's really done before, and to be, I mean, it helps that it's Vince Gilligan, if anybody can do all of that at once. And a crew that, as we've talked about in just about every episode, really knows each other and seems to really trust each other and has worked together for a long time. Like, it's just like
I think without that, you can't do this.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Like, you know, the relationship between Ray Seahorn and Vince Gilligan, the relationship between Vince and his crew that he's worked with, the relationship between these, like the heads of every department, like the DOP, the costume department, all of these are people that have worked with Vince in the past and like trust his vision. And like, I heard them say recently on the podcast that they do, like, one of the things you really don't want to do is say no to Vince Gilligan. And it's not because Vince Gilligan will be mad at you. It's because you want so badly to have this creative vision come to life. Like, you want to find a way to make whatever he has in his mind happen because it's just such a collaborative effort. And like, that can come across as fake, that whole like, oh, it's such a collaborative effort, when like a showrunner / creator says that. But like, you really believe it with him because everyone on board, all of the other players say the same thing, and they all clearly feel ownership over their piece of it.
Oh, totally. And especially because I know we talk about the podcast a lot, and we usually don't do that with other shows, but it just is so informative. And it's not, I don't know. From a technical standpoint, it's like so informative. And keeping what you just said in mind was something that I thought was super interesting when they were talking about notes in the last episode. We're going to talk about 7, 8, and 9. We'll go through them. But also I think we're going to talk a little more broadly here. So I think this is where it makes sense to mention this. They were talking about the getting notes on the last scene of the finale. And they kept getting notes that were like, we don't know if it's really big enough. And the thing Vince said was like, if you're getting notes and they don't totally work for you, but you're getting them from a lot of different people in different ways, something is missing that needs to be changed, even if it's not what they're saying. And the fact that he's clearly so open to that, to me, makes it feel like, well, you can trust then that it's not that he's not open to feedback, and, you know, he will take the note when he needs to. And so you've got both sides of those things going on, and it just seems like it makes for such a strong product. I hate that I call it a product. Piece of art.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that that's a big part of it, is that like, clearly he's like the big ideas guy, but he has said himself that, you know, it's interesting when you look at the 9 episodes of this season, there's a lot of different writers, there's a lot of different directors, right? And so that can create sort of a disjointed feel, but it's clear that what he does is work with people that he has worked with before in some capacity that already know what he's looking for. And then he lets them have their like authorship as well.
Yeah.
And that combines together to create something that like, I'm always surprised at how cohesive it feels with all of those different voices in the mix.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said voices in the mix. I was just thinking of the last bonus episode of the podcast is, I feel like I spoke this into being.
Oh, the sound.
With the sound team.
I didn't listen to that one yet, so I'm excited.
We're going to have to talk about it a little bit because it's so good. But I'm bringing it up here because one of the things they were talking about, which isn't super relevant to the episode itself, but just more about sound design in general, is the difference between editing and mixing, which is something that if you don't work in the audio world, you might not totally know. And the example, the like metaphor they gave was the editor sources and preps the ingredients. So that's like the sous chef. And then the mixer is the person who actually makes the meal and puts all the ingredients together. So you can't make a good meal if the ingredients aren't prepped well and they're sourced poorly. And I was just going to say, it sounds like just kind of, I was thinking about The Bear, how like the kitchen you can have a ton of people in the kitchen and it can either run really well and be this amazing oiled machine and turn out the best meals, or it can be total shit. And it just depends on how everybody's working together and, that everybody understands what the head chef is going for, which in The Bear, our head chef didn't know what he was going for. Yeah.
And has bought into it and feels the freedom to like contribute, but also knows like where that line is, where it's like contributing versus putting your own vision on top of someone else's, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not to keep bringing other shows into it, but you saying that just made me think of the show that neither of us put on our 2025 list, me because I hadn't started watching it yet, but The Pitt. It reminds.
Well, it was on my list.
Oh, it was on your list. It wasn't just an honorable mention. Okay.
Yeah, it was number 5 on my list.
Okay, it would have been on my list too. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
at
this
the
is
end of
big
the
news.
episode.
You finally started watching The Pitt. I'm so excited.
Good. It's so good. There's a character in The Pitt who is really trying to force her way into things do things more for her than for trying to better the crew. And that's all. I just wanted to talk to you about The Pitt for a second. But point being, you really have to have a cohesive team who trusts each other and isn't trying to contribute just to put their own spin or like fingerprint on something, but because what they have to contribute is going to elevate the whole project.
And I think so. That's a good place, I think, to talk about what is so unusual in some cases about a Vince Gilligan project that will bring us to like episode 7, I think, The Gap, because he is known to, in the writer's room, bring up this idea of like, how little dialogue can we make this work with? Like, how little can we have the characters say and still understand what's happening? And episode 7 is like the sort of peak of this idea, because there's so little dialogue in this episode.
The
script has to be like 5 pages. Like, it's so little.
Yeah, I don't know about their actual script, but I always pull a transcript online, and the site that I use, I think the Gap episode is like 25 or 26 pages, and the other ones are all more than 40.
Yeah, it's 27, and most of that is like the credits and the intro and then the plot recap.
Exactly.
And a lot of sort of bracketed directions or cues, like drone whirring, line ringing, tone beeps, engine revving. Like, there's almost no actual, like, it would be funny to just take just the dialogue and pull it and see how long it actually is. And it's probably like 3 pages. Yeah, no, I mean, as a visual person, I feel like this episode to me was just so, like, I do and don't understand people that said that the episode was boring. Like, I do, because I think that, I think they're very wrong, obviously. But I do think that if you're trying to watch this as a second screen show while you're staring at your phone, literally nothing is going to happen if you're not looking at the screen most of the time.
Right.
But if you are, you're rewarded with these incredible shots, these like beautiful vistas, the face acting of Vesca and Ray Seahorn, like,
and you learn
it's
so
amazing.
much about both of their internal struggles in this episode. Did we talk on mic about how frustrated I get when people say that shows that like we're making shows for two screen watchers?
I think we might have talked about this last week. I could be wrong because
if it was on mic or not, but that's what I was thinking about watching this episode. Is like Vince Gilligan does not give a shit.
No, well, he always says he likes to, not dumb things down for his audience and assume their intelligence and not try to make something that is for everyone because, and it's so funny. There's so many ways that they've talked about this show that immediately makes me think of the content of the show because he's like, well, we're trying not to make something that's for everyone. Well, that's what the hive is. That's AI. That is like an automatic response that is meant to please the most people possible.
Right.
And he's trying to not do that.
Right.
I think what you said about the we learned so much about the two of them. I think this is the episode that's like a character contrast. Like you could write a paper. I know we always say this, but you could write a paper about the contrast between Manousos and Carol in this specific moment. And I think there's so much in this episode about immigration, about like privileged white ladies and the way that, speaking as a privileged white lady, I think that like you really could write a thesis on the way that the show is portraying two different responses to the same event.
And it's smart too, because it, if all we saw was Manousos in Colombia and then he shows up at Carol's door and we don't see this journey. Because I know I was excited when we realized he was going to go out and that they're going to meet and whatever. But you really see that like they're handling this so differently. And even if they both think they've got the same goal, you start to realize like it's probably not going to pan out the way both of them hope their meeting will.
And like he's in this episode, he's closer, and actually throughout, he's closer to Carol in the beginning. Right. But even more so, like Carol in the beginning is very like anti whatever's happening, very resistant, whatever. But it almost feels like, and maybe I'm just as a white lady just fixating on this, but it feels very white lady resistance. It feels very like, I'm resistant, I'm going to fight you, I'm going to do this. But then when things are inconvenient for me, I'm still going to call you and have you fill up sprouts. Right?
And they're
Meanwhile, Manousos is like tossing the food over that his fake mom is bringing him.
And they're dealing with a very different kind of isolation in both cases. And it really does, just knowing the journey that both of them were on and what they were both dealing with. Because like you said, Carol is having a much a kind of softer time in a way, or a cushier time in dealing with all this. But she is dealing with, a kind of loneliness, not a kind,
the death of her wife,
profound loneliness, grief, all of that. But, and so in that way, it does sort of...
And we also don't want to simplify Manousos as like generic immigrant, right? Like he doesn't talk much in the beginning. We know very little about his backstory other than the fact that like his mom was a bitch. That's basically all we know. Until episode 9, we don't really hear him talk to another person. And so other than cursing at Carol on the phone, which at that point we all kind of wanted to curse at Carol. And so he is, I think, a little bit at risk in this episode of being this avatar for the suffering sort of, like this is his second time migrating to a new place because he's from, Colombia, living in Paraguay.
Yeah. I hope people aren't watching and thinking he's like simple for that reason. I think what makes him, what the contrast is he is so purpose driven in a way that Carol hasn't really figured out how to be, or if she really wants to be. She thinks that she is, but that's I think what makes him so narrow here.
And it's the timing, right? Like she had her most purpose driven moment when she was like breaking into the warehouse, finding the body parts, and she really was deflated by Mr. Diabate's response. You know, like that, she went in there with a head full of steam, just being like, we have to take these people down, and left there being like, well, I guess I'm safe.
Yeah.
And no one else wants to help me. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm going to go play golf, you know?
Yeah. I was wondering, you know, Diabate did that thing that I really liked, which was called her out on not including the people who don't speak English. And I wonder where Minusos would have been in all of this if she had called everybody in. And he had realized, he wasn't talking to them, but I wonder if they had gotten a message to him, because they could have, that there were unjoined who were interested in communicating with him, if he may have trusted that enough or been so desperate to that he would have been more included, and what two people aligned in that goal would have done for the other 10 or whatever. Who knows? I know we can't know, but
so I think we've already kind of gotten into it, but basically this whole episode is like two journeys and comparing them. And one is Carol returning from meeting with Diabate, coming back to emptiness and deciding, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to use the hive to provide for me everything that I need. And then meanwhile, Minusos is driving his cute little MG all the way from Paraguay to the Darien Gap, attempting to cross it on foot, failing, obviously, being rescued by the hive, and then cut. Like, basically, it's just this comparison between these two. One journey and one basically giving up. It's such an incredible episode. Like, I don't want to spend all of our time on one and then kind of give the other short shrift, but the idea that Carol decides to take a Rolls Royce from the golf club and like shank golf balls into building windows and create destruction and like shoot fireworks off and sing like, you know, patriotic songs in her cul-de-sac with her giant houses around her. Like, he's traipsing through the jungle.
Yeah. And every shift there too, because she starts with that police car, which is utility, the most like, what better representation of control do we have than the police? It's like in shitty condition. And then she goes to the kind of most ostentatious. It's also just like it's also like decorated because two people had just been married. And even that feels like weddings are such a big display of like, especially that kind, clearly if there was a Rolls Royce involved. But then also like
she also goes to the O'Keeffe Museum.
She does go
and takes a painting.
It's so funny. The way that comes back later is so funny. But like, even though like she starts out playing golf by herself on a golf course, and by the end
with a bison
and
a bunny,
that reminded me of Yellow Jackets. I had to remind myself that was like, no, that's a bison. It's not a hallucination.
Yeah,
it's there.
Yeah.
I still
it's not going to be voiced by.
I was expecting it to start talking. Exactly.
Yeah.
What is up with the animals, Jodie?
In this show?
Yeah. Why did we release them from the zoos?
Don't know. Because no one was going to feed them in the zoos anymore. They'd probably all die. But I guess they don't care because
it's really interesting. Yeah. Like,
well, when we get to 9, the animals are
We've got we've got all the best zookeepers in the world. You know what I mean? And you could send 5 people in probably, and they could handle it. But
they'd have to harm something.
Yeah, I guess
they'd have to grow the food or start feeding human-derived protein to the animals.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. You're so right.
Because animals eat other animals.
Yeah.
Like,
and the animals
is the way
eat the grass. And thus, we are all connected in the great circle of life.
And you can't just cut that chain and expect it to work.
Yeah. Like, Mufasa laid that out for you for a reason. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe
they didn't watch The Lion King.
Yeah, exactly. Before they sent this virus out. But just that devolution of to the build, like shooting out the glass windows and the fireworks, the like how bigger and more absurd her play with those fireworks becomes. And to
the point where she notices one aimed at her and doesn't move. Like, it really is a devolution, and like for both of them, but in completely different ways. Like if we think about like her various exploits, like you said, like she goes golfing, she goes swimming at a spa, she gets a bunch of fireworks. We first see the change because she stopped to get gas, and she immediately just calls and she starts ordering them around. She's very Karen/Carol with the hive now. Like before it was fear at first, then it was like, I want nothing to do with you. Then it was like sort of feeling them out. Then it was, oh my God, they're eating people. And now it's like, okay, fine, you do this for me in a very like, can I speak to the manager sort of way.
Yeah.
And her tone of voice is definitely like a little triggering to me as someone who like
worked in customer service. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck you, bitch. But, and then, she ends up like we said, the golf balls, breaking windows, and then the fireworks. And then finally, the firework lights one of the neighbors' garages on fire. She kind of slowly gets up to put it out. And then I thought when she goes to the store the next day, she was going to get stuff to repair something, like the garage that had burned down. Instead, she gets the paint and writes "come back" on the road.
Did you have a guess of what she was painting?
I thought it was a penis. I don't know why. I just feel like
she's
it's like a fuck you kind of
rebellious
thing.
Child, kind of.
Yeah. Like she like paint like a classic on the carved into
also,
the desk at school.
Because I was just gonna say it's because I'm gonna tell you why I think you thought that, and you tell me if this is actually, and you just didn't unearth it because you've been away from it for too long.
Okay.
That Mischief Night, if anybody was drawing anything on blacktop, it was a penis.
Totally.
Okay.
I think that's fair. And it's Goosey Night, but yeah.
I thought it was going to say fuck off. And so for me, the comeback as opposed to what it really kind of hit me.
Well, and at the end of episode 7, there's an ambiguity for both. Like there's an ambiguity for Carol where she's saying come back, but you're kind of like, and you've seen her be isolated for 40 days, which is, I don't think, an incidental number. And so you've seen the isolation, and so you think it could be real, like she's desperate for companionship again, regardless of what it costs. And then you also think maybe she's going to try to manipulate the situation.
Right. Or it could just be a utility thing. Like somebody's got to fix the house. She knows they can do it really quickly. So maybe, who knows? Like,
right. Yeah, her intentions are not clear. She is not talking to us or anyone else. So we have to just read it by her behaviors. And then Manusos, when he finally collapses after falling on a chunga palm.
That was tough. That was really tough.
Yeah. When he hears the helicopter, he holds his hand up. And in that moment, you could see that as just blocking the sun. You could see it as waving them off. You could see it as calling them in or like getting their attention. There's all sorts of ways you can read, in that episode anyway, his reaction to them coming to save him. God, the Darien Gap thing, as soon as he starts walking, spiders and snakes especially snakes, are a big, huge fear of mine. And like,
I thought you were going to say from watching Alone was my assumption that there are lots of snakes in that too. It did remind me
there weirdly aren't a lot of snakes in that.
That's interesting. It reminded me not to just keep talking about their podcast, but talking about this episode, I thought of you because the first thing they say is like a lot of people in the writers' room were obsessed with Alone. And I thought they were going to mention Manusos in the jungle, but their reason for bringing that up which was my favorite thing in this episode, was Carol making up songs, or not, she's not making up songs. Carol singing songs. To herself, and watching the word association where she's singing Georgia on My Mind at the Georgia O'Keeffe.
Well, and the interesting thing about Alone that I think that they are, whether they realize it or not, kind of connecting to is that one of the reasons I like that show is the psychological aspect, which is the people that go in there with the most bravado are the ones that freak out at the solitude first. The ones that go in there with a healthy respect for the environment and a sense of their own place in it, that don't go in to conquer it, that go in to kind of see what it brings them and live with it, are the ones that kind of, I mean, nobody thrives in endless solitude, but that last a lot longer and feel more connected to something larger the whole time. And so the bravado that Carol kind of has in her daily life, I think, is the reason that she's so bad at actually being alone.
Yeah, and that's why that contrast too is so helpful, because you, for a second when, Manousos wakes up in the hospital, we could find that he's a little more receptive because they saved his life.
They saved his life.
But no, he came in with his purpose, knowing too that the jungle would be dangerous, but determined to make his way through. And when they finally meet, he's pretty much the same as he was back in Colombia, as opposed to Carol, who's been beaten and broken down. And I think it's, has a lot to do with what you just said. So I think that
I think there's a slight slippage with him with the ambulance. Like he does write down that he owes them $8,000 plus the cost of an ambulance. However, an ambulance is like $100,000 plus. I think Manousos knows he's not going to be able to pay them back. And so at that point in the beginning, like he's leaving actual cash for people's gas that he's siphoned. He is not doing anything that if the world turned back to normal tomorrow, he wouldn't be able to actually make right until the hospital.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I feel like he's still sticking to his guns, but I think the journey through the jungle, the Darien Gap, has made him a little bit more willing to still put the language to it, but maybe take some liberties.
Especially at that point, they didn't give him a choice about the hospital. Like,
no,
they saddled him with a debt that he did not ask for, as opposed to every other thing that he did on the way there. So there's also that. But it's
also just his desperation. Like he has to get there somehow, and his car is burned. So.
But that he's driving around in an ambulance while Carol had been driving around in a cop car, but is now driving around in a Rolls Royce, like everything.
Yeah. And that's the timing again, right? Like if he showed up during her cop car era, they would have been more on the same page. So we end episode 7 with Zosha coming back and that intense hug.
Carol's
desperation.
Because like I said, the writing comeback was a surprise for me, but then also because, like you said, we weren't totally sure what she was getting at there. It's just the way she breaks down, like she's like a child again. There is so sad.
Well, and they like face off at first. Like Zosha gets out of the car, Carol comes out of the house. They like walk kind of parallel tracks until they get to the driveway, and then they face each other. And it's just sort of like, like you said, you don't know what that initial contact is going to be. I found myself really trying to read Zosha's face here. And like Carolina Widra is so good.
Yeah, she's incredible.
That in between acting, where like all of the interviews they've talked about how it's a challenge that like I don't think most other actors will ever have to face. This like you're playing 7 billion people, but also like you're interacting with one person as one individual body, and like it's crazy.
Do you believe that in whatever way they know how, I believe that Zosha believes that they love Carol and want the best for her. And so on the one hand, and we know how like sensitive to their emotions, to the unjoined emotions the others are. So on like the one hand, it probably is painful for Zosha to see her suffer, but on the other, the others have kind of won this not kind of, 100%, they won this standoff.
Yeah, and if you follow their logic, that winning is just bringing Carol closer to becoming one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a couple things in this episode I just want to highlight before we actually move on, because the Manousos learning English as he travels and then repeating phrases to himself in the forest, there's a couple things there. One is, of course, the obvious, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die, which I was delighted to hear that the writers actually were thinking of, that it wasn't just an association, that they also are big Princess Bride fans. And just like, so the things that he's saying are so interesting because they are things that like you would learn when you were learning a language in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the world is big. Big the world.
Mm-hmm.
The world is big. Things about the gray cat and the yellow dog. But you also hear him say, which pays off in episode 9, today I am not going to the library. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, yes, to the library I will go. I am not going to the library today. And I'm like, he goes to the library in episode 9. Yeah. Another one is the girl saves the mouse from the trap. And like, there's so much that you can read into the lines that he is saying at the time. And then, of course, the one thing that he does say in this episode that I just feel like we have to highlight here, because it's the first time we've ever really heard him speak like a long sentence or two. And he says, they're asking him if they can help him get across the Darien Gap. They're trying to stop him from trying because it's so dangerous. They're surrounded by the clothes and objects of other actual migrants that have given up and hadn't made it across. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Darien Gap, we don't need to, that's been discussed ad nauseum after this episode, but like, it's a very dangerous place. And it's like the cartels that are functioning there are often like trafficking humans through the gap, as well as other things. But so he says, they say we could get you there by nightfall. We can even transport your car. We know how much it means to you. And I feel like that is what triggered him, is this idea that like they think they know him. Mm-hmm. And he says, nothing on this planet is yours. Nothing. You cannot give me anything because all that you have is stolen. You don't belong here. I mean, as an American,
I mean,
that's all I need to say. As an American, I'm just like hearing him say that, and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's such a really visceral, outright rejection of everything they think they're trying to do. It's like, basically, Carol's trying to work within the rules of this game that they've created for her, and he's just calling out the game. He's like, no, this is not real.
And I know,
like,
doing. This show is a pretty clear, like colonizer metaphor. They're, literally
there's lots of,
colonizing this planet, and for what they deem to be the better good and what's good for these people who don't know any better, and so to have that conversation put out that way.
I mean, a lot of the justification in quotation marks of colonizing countries has been that the people being colonized don't know what's good for themselves,
right.
They're lesser intelligence, which is obviously bullshit, but whatever. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of Manusos's lines in the jungle, because I feel like they're the only things we hear him say,
right?
And it's in the guise of him practicing English, but also like it's very intentional which we hear, which words.
And just how he uses what he's learned to piece together the parts of the conversation that he and Carol have out loud later is also it's like more fun than anything of like, what is he held on to? So but exactly. It is really again, doing a lot with a little in this show as usual. It's really cool.
I love the story of him that he tells that Vesca tells of how they had to bring in every single rock and tree and everything because it was in a national park and they couldn't move or change anything, and how he like stepped really hard on one of the fake rocks that was styrofoam and it like exploded and ruined the take.
The thing too I love so much about getting to listen to them talk about the show on the podcast is the show is such a good balance of we do as much as we can practical, and then we bring in the digital when we have to. So like the that's a really good example, because they could have done that digitally later, I guess. But then there's also, they talk about it a lot in this episode, because they also talk about how the fireworks are done with Carol, where it's like the ones on the ground are practical, and then the lights reflecting on Carol's face are actual lights on the set flashing whatever colors, and then the fireworks in the sky are added later. So it's like instead of just doing what feels to me like the lazy thing, and because you could do all of that in post, you can do anything in post, but you can feel the difference. And also with the office building with the golf club with the golf balls, where it's like the glasses were on the desk and were physically jerked away, but then adding the ball and the shattering glass was done in post. And I think that's like it's just such a way of using these tools we have, not to take shortcuts, but to I just want to.
I kept thinking about that after. They mentioned something similar in the pilot episode when Carol's driving away from the craziness at the bar. There's like the street lights and things flashing on her face as she drives. And basically what they did was they filmed what she's seeing, and then on a giant screen in front of the car that's not actually driving anywhere, replayed it so that the lights would like actually kind of accurately represent what she was driving past. It's so smart.
And it really does make a difference, I think. Like, you don't want to look away from the show for a second.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All I want to say about the Georgia O'Keeffe of it all is like any person who has truly loved a piece of artwork enough to put a replication of it in their home, the idea that you could, without really any guilt, bring that artwork home. Like, I think that Georgia O'Keeffe, were she around to ask, if you asked her, would you want a private citizen, one of the only 11 or 12 at the end of it, 12 people on the earth that are not a part of this hive mind, to take your artwork home and live with it instead of it being a part of this institution? Georgia O'Keeffe would say, fuck yes. Maybe not in those words, but she would say, yes, please. The one person that has like a consciousness to appreciate art, to take it home with them. Like, yeah. And of course, Belladonna being Deadly Nightshade. Like, there's all sorts of other like layers of this that we could talk about. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight the idea of like if you could, maybe this is a question for our listeners. If you could take one famous artwork home with you and live with it with no guilt, like it wasn't stolen, it was just like you could have it, which one would it be? I'm going to think about that and answer it later. But I think that like it's clearly that's the one for her because she has a replication of it in her house already. Yeah, that she could have gone anywhere. Yeah, she went to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. It's also, as a queer woman, I'm allowed to say it. It's so funny that they. Of course, it's funny that it's Georgia O'Keeffe. Like, I know, and it's not one of the paintings that's like clearly a vagina. The most obvious, but it's great. I also, just to tie this into the practical effects discussion, they worked really closely with the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. Such an interesting story. Yeah, that's not the actual museum, just because it's impractical to shoot there because these are original artworks and you can't bring lights in. Yeah, you can't shine Klieg lights on real paintings. Yeah, and so it's just like a kind of meticulous reprint, and then because they couldn't get the colors to print quite right, especially the shade, the white, the specific white that Georgia used in this painting, they then practically painted on top of the print to give it the texture and the right color. And again, like, I think you'd have to be a pretty like deep O'Keeffe expert to even clock that, especially on a TV show. You wouldn't like, and the fact that they went to that level of work and detail just makes me so happy. Well, and it's so pointing at the meta themes of this show, which is like the hive is theoretically excited for Carol to make something new for them to consume into their hive memory, mind, whatever, because there's nothing new being created by artists. I think that's like, what it is. It's just the novelty of it. And you see that later in episode 9 when they get to learn something new about Carol. It's almost not even about the fact of what it is, but just that they get something new. And that is... And I know that Vince Gilligan has talked about how like AI basically wasn't even a conversation point when he started writing this, but it's impossible to not think about the sort of scraping that AI is doing of creative product on the internet and like the fact that it starts to fold in on itself and like there's not enough new content for it to consume. And so it's like regurgitating and it's kind of this loop of like constant dumbing down. That is what's happening to the hive. Like, there's no new things being input.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, if they were smart, they would keep but this is how you know there are a lot of reasons.
It's just a virus. Yeah.
You know, there's more nefarious stuff going on, but if they were smart, they'd keep a few people unjoined so that
keep the artists around so they can make stuff. Yeah.
But, yeah.
No, totally. I think that
and I'd happily be that person. That's
I know.
Fine.
This is honestly the folly of everyone who's not to be that person, but the folly of AI is it can't create anything. It can just remix and regurgitate. And that's not creating.
Mm-hmm.
So lecture done. Okay. Episode 8, Charm Offensive. This one, it's so funny. I don't know if I said this on mic, but I love the fact that we divided this into 3 sections because it definitely feels like a 3-act play.
Yeah.
And then 3 mini 3-act plays within it. And so we have the journey episode, and then we have the this one is mostly a Carol episode. Minusos is...
He bookends it. I double checked. I think he's literally only... And they're impactful, of course, but 2 scenes, really.
Yeah. But I like the thought of it as bookends because it really... we end with him in the previous episode. Or no, we don't. But that him in the forest is super impactful. And then he wakes up in the hospital, and this is where he holds a knife to the throat of one of the nurses, doctors, hive members. They let him go, obviously, because they can't hurt him. And he takes off in the ambulance with all of his wounds that are still very disgusting and need lots more treatment.
We won't go back to episode 7. We've talked about it too much, but just all of him dealing with that was... Oh, one tiny thing I want to shout out for episode 7 because I loved learning it. The friendly man in the truck who's traveling sort of along with him was a stunt driver. Because he's driving this truck stick uphill through the jungle and he's very close to Vesca. And so they had to use a stunt driver, and they just liked him and his vibe so much.
He had a good vibe.
And so he ended up just playing the part. It's cool. Yeah. That's all. I wanted to give him a little extra shout out.
Yeah, no, he was great. So
on to 8.
Yeah. So 8 is basically it almost feels like a mini rom-com between Zosha and Carol, them getting to know each other in a romantic way, which is its own thing.
Well, and it's funny, if you didn't have the title here, especially watching Carol's journey last episode, it's called Charm Offensive. So it's a play, right? At least in part, or at least
on whose part?
Carol, right? Also that. At least, it starts out that way. And how much is it, it's hard to say on both sides what's actually going on there, but the fact that it gives you that name is...
And similar to the end of 7, right? Where we're not sure entirely the intention that Carol has in bringing them back. It's the same thing throughout this, where we're sort of gauging her intentions in all of the different scenes.
And Zosha / the hives too. Yeah. It's so... I really love how... thoughtfully ambiguous so much of what goes on in this show is.
Well, it also mirrors the initial experience of dating, where you're trying to figure out if this person is really who they're acting like they are, and what's behind their, best version of themselves.
It's so funny. I wrote down in my notes this mutual positive projection, because it really feels like that's what's happening here. It's the first time we've seen them both at least acting as if they're believing that both of them have the best of intentions, even if deep down they're questioning it. But they're both Carol's presenting the best version of herself too, which we've never seen her do.
No. And she's doing it for a couple of reasons, but one is obviously that she doesn't want them to leave again. If she acts out
I know.
If she gets angry, she knows they'll go.
Mm-hmm.
I also love like, she has been not unobserved. She's been observed, but she has been not in the presence of another person for 40 days. And so one of the first things that happens is she gets embarrassed that she stole the painting. She was like, I'm just keeping it safe. There's animals rubbing up against it. Or they could get into the museum.
This specific painting too.
Yeah. The buffaloes are all coming to see Belladonna and then like rubbing their fur up against it.
And it's funny too because Zosha, we know they can't lie, but we also know they don't have to be straightforward. And the way she knows, obviously that's not why Carol took it, but she says like, do you want us to, reinforce? I forget the exact wording, but they're both pretending like that's actually what happened and why Carol took it.
Well, and this episode specifically is where, for me, like, we've seen hints of, like, not before this, we haven't really seen that much of the hive changing. Mm-hmm. But you and I talked about the fact that it was weird that they didn't understand sarcasm in the beginning, right? And now Zosha is acting more like a person. Like, it's weird to see her teasing Carol, having a sense of humor, like understanding sarcasm and using it. Like, it's definitely a change.
Yeah, it's a change. And it makes me question the earlier behaviors even more, because it's not like they suddenly got new information. Like, why weren't they?
Right. I mean, AI has evolved.
Gen AI, absolutely.
Yeah.
But,
that's how I thought about it, though, was like that learning process of ingesting more and more information into this like hive mind has allowed them to, over this short period of time, understand more complex nuances of human behavior.
Yeah, totally. And I think that makes a lot of sense, and also is curious to me because like they got all the information at once. They already had it all, and they all have access to it at the same time. It's just
maybe they didn't have enough processing power,
right? Because they were too busy collecting up all the dead bodies.
They didn't have enough. They didn't have enough AI farms set up yet where they can pollute the environment they theoretically care about.
That really could be, because we talked about before, it seemed like nobody had taken a shower or changed their clothes at first because they were
putting all that effort into cleanup.
Yeah, and so maybe they just were kind of defaulting to what felt easiest at the time and couldn't, and humor and sarcasm and that's just really nuanced. And the other thing too that we are reminded of, and that Carol is reminded of by episode 9, is that like that's how Carol is best dealt with. Mm-hmm. But it's, Carol is like their main interest right now because she's, not going along to get along the way most of them are. But also is allowing them access in a way that Manousos isn't. So in that way, she's like their number one priority. But she's
not. We're not seeing all of the different James Bond movies that Diabate is having them act out every day.
Right. Right. Which is a lot of energy. And so it's not just, she's not the only one that they've got to figure out how best to deal with. So it is also possible that they kind of started out at that baseline and then for everybody have been adjusting. And
it's like an efficiency where it's settling into where to put the effort.
Right.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting in this initial interaction between Carol and Zosha, all of the little bits and pieces that point at this thing we're talking about, which is like, how does this hive mind learn, function? How does all of this knowledge, but put into individual bodies, work? Because they're talking about playing board games. And it's like, well, how do you play a board game against something that has all of the knowledge in the world? Mm-hmm. And the answer is you play something that uses physical reaction time.
Yeah.
the game Spit, which I played with my cousins constantly as a kid.
Constantly as a kid.
Yeah.
Not to belabor the AI metaphor, but like you said, it's impossible not to. You also just helped me make sense of that too, which is like, again, I'm not one of the people I'm going to describe right now. So this is just from, I'm so annoying when I talk about my other jobs, but
only to you, I think, but
I've been lucky enough to talk to some of the people who are doing currently frontline groundbreaking research on Gen AI and its effects on the human brain and all of that.
Yeah.
And one thing is, it's not, it doesn't come to you knowing how you want to be interacted with. You have to tell it. And you can say it. Like, you can go to ChatGPT and say, like, I want you to be funny and sarcastic with me. And then it will. It won't be as good as a human, but that's how it will respond to you. And so it's not that they immediately know exactly what Carol needs. They still need her to tell them how to interact with her. And this is what they're figuring out too. So
no, that's exactly right. They have learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of this scene where they talk about board games and then go and play Spit, like, this is a reiteration for me of, like, throughout this whole episode, the nefarious nature. I'm not a person who ever thought the hive was benign, but like, it keeps getting brought up because one of the things Carol said to them in the very beginning, and like with emotion, is like, you do not have access to Helen. Like, do not use Helen.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff that Zosha is bringing up as they're talking about board games, like Zosha says, they're talking about chess, and Zosha says, oh, you're missing a white rook, remember? But we can get you a new one. And it's like, she's using Helen's knowledge. She's using Helen's understanding of how to interact with Carol.
Yep.
What about the game you used to play with your cousins? Like, she's using all that knowledge. And it's like, so there is no, they talk about consent, but it's like, well, she asked you specifically not to use this knowledge and you're using it constantly.
Right, exactly. But Carol's not saying no now. And so.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's, her desperation for companionship has overridden her desire to protect, like, this memory of Helen, which is a human thing. I mean, I think, like we said when we were talking about the show Alone, like the idea of being alone for that long and not only like, because on that show, you're only alone like that because you've chosen to be, and you can end it at any time by picking up a phone. In this case, like, she can end it by picking up the phone, but the companionship she's going to get when she does decide to do that is not actual companionship. So it's a different kind of aloneness. It's like, she's alone for 40 days, but like, there's only a few other people in the world that she can have a real conversation with, and she doesn't know them. The one person who knew her the best that was an actual human is gone. Like, she is actually alone no matter whether they're there or not. So that's why people have talked about this as also as a metaphor for depression. It's this idea that, like, you're in your own world, even though other people are around acting like everything's fine, like, you're actually alone.
Right. And you can get up and do all of the actions that you might do any other day, but it doesn't mean the same thing. Totally.
Right. Right. There's a like a boundary between you and everyone else. The one thing that this sort of charm offensive, this different attitude towards the hive is allowing her to do, though, is to actually ask more questions.
I love it. And it's
a little bit of fan service, because it's like all of these questions, everyone's been like, well, but wait, what about this? And where are this? And what are they doing here? And how does this work? And Carol's finally taking that on for us.
The other thing that is such a beautiful relief for me, as somebody who loves, and this isn't really a mystery box show, but it kind of, it has like some similar stuff where, like, a character doesn't ask a question or get information that they should have access to, because then it would give it to us and we're supposed to be kept in secret. Like in Lost, a lot of times people would keep stuff from each other that doesn't make sense, and it's because it would tell us too much. That this is a show where she is just outright asking questions, and they've set it up in such a way that, like, the writers, I mean, get to decide how much information they want to, like, dole out to us, but can be a little sneaky about it, because Zosha is being a little sneaky about it to Carol. Right. It just feels much more like satisfying and makes more sense to me than those deliberate secret, like stubborn secret keepers in a show like, for example, Lost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And like the thing that's so interesting, so I'm thinking now of the scene where Zosha shows Carol where they all sleep in the convention center. And when you think about it, it makes sense if they're about efficiency to have everyone sleep in the same place and conserve resources. But it also made me immediately think of natural disasters and shelters. And it's like they're doing this theoretically because they want to conserve resources and also all be together to sleep. But actually, they're mimicking the response to a natural disaster where people have probably died, and people are dying constantly, and they're not really having that much of an emotional reaction to it. And so it's like a facsimile of a human emotional event, but done in a way that is very like numb.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, that is. And just the fact that the response is still in practice the same. You know, this big global event happened and this is what's happening in response to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it looks like that. Like it looks like a bunch of people bedded down in a shelter for the night.
Yeah, especially because I was like, probably wouldn't have been too hard to bring actual beds in. Like,
yeah, they have them. Put that old lady on a bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't make her lay on the floor.
Exactly.
How's she going to get up?
I thought that part, I was like, why? Where's the comfort here? You have human bodies, but yeah.
Yeah,
but it is
totally
much more striking when you see it that way. And then also, so important while we're here to talk about my favorite character in Pluribus, Bear Jordan.
Bear Jordan, yeah.
What a good boy. He looks just like Jake from Battlestar Galactica, who is the only dog you see on that show too. And not that I think it's related, but I did immediately go back to my obsession with the dog on Battlestar Galactica, because I was asking the whole time I was watching that show, do people not have dogs in this, on this show? Do people not have dogs? And they don't have dogs on Pluribus because no one has anything.
Yeah. This is another question, right, that people have had and that they decide to answer here. Like, no one has a pet because you don't own anything. But if the pet refuses to leave its person, they will care for it technically.
Right. That's just like me and Pacey. I don't own him. We are psychically linked and
totally. Yes.
So we stay together, but I don't own him.
But this really pays off in episode 9, which we'll talk about with the animals. But we end up with Carol. Carol's giving in pretty quickly, I think, just because now Zosha's flirting with her. Zosha is responding to Carol, like you said, the way that Carol would train a ChatGPT to respond to her. Like, she's flirting, she's being dryly funny,
Well, and Carol remembers how desperately lonely she was just a day ago. It for her right now, and it sort of is, this must feel like her only two options. She knows that every time she gets around the other unjoined, she fucks it up. I keep joking that I would, get along just fine in this world. And I don't think that's true, but I do understand how quickly you can feel like this is, your best option at this point.
Yeah. And, the fact that Zosha invites her to stay, we're led to think she's probably not going to, right?
Yeah.
And then we see her in the middle of this pile of people, with her arm over Zosha.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole time
not quite
as I'm watching,
but like a slight.
Not quite, but yeah. The whole time as I was watching this, I was like, they're not going to actually. That can't. And I'm what. Yeah, I was watching it like, there's no way. Nope. Yep, there is. They go from literally being like an awkward first date to a married couple by the end of this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We have the train horn scene where they discover the new thing about Carol.
Yeah.
It's almost like Carol discovers it about herself too, because she's surprised that she never told Helen.
She says it's the loneliest sound in the world, which I don't know why that made me laugh. I was like, God, you're such a writer.
I know.
You just like the way those words sounded together. It's actually not the loneliest sound in the world because it's literally connecting, like a train is connected. You know what I mean? Like the whole point is to get to somewhere else where people are, and the like sound of it is acknowledging.
I do agree with her, though. I love it.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially in a space like that where it's echoing, and there's in like central PA, there's a town called Stroudsburg, and you can go on a train ride, and they do this thing where they stop and they tell a little story about a ghost train. And they say, like, if you're very quiet, we'll blow our whistle, and you'll hear the ghost train whistle back, and they blow the whistle, and then it echoes back, and everybody goes, ooh. Made me think of that.
I mean, I grew up like near commuter trains, and so it's not the same as like a distant freight train, but I heard trains my whole life, like at crossings, like blowing their train horns, and so it's just such a comforting sound to me. But during this scene is also where they talk about the radio transmission piece of it, and like we're like, Manousos, he's onto them.
I really feel like we got a lot of information this season, and that's another thing maybe too that I love so much about this is I really feel like we are getting to discover things along with Carol that are useful and helpful, because like they planted that seed early by mentioning the cell phones being down, and then we see Manousos cataloging his numbers, and now we hear this. And the fact, I was kind of shocked that Zosha told us so much information about that.
There's a lot of this like drip of information that happens throughout the episode. It's almost the purpose, I think, of this episode. There's two purposes to me. One is to show Carol's like slide into this relationship from where she was in the beginning, which is like, fuck you, get out of my yard. And the other is for the audience and for Carol to start to get all of this info, because the next thing is the massage, and she's again asking questions like, how does this work? You're massaging yourself technically, right? And so it's about this difference between knowledge and feeling, and how you would function with all the knowledge in the world in your head, and how you would have to like block out certain things, but also be aware of them. And it is sort of a lot of the curiosity around this show is like, but how? Right. And like, this is trying to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she says, like, does everyone feel what you're feeling right now? Is the whole world getting a massage? And she talks about how in the last 10 minutes, there's been 1,674 deaths and 965 births. And so to feel all of it all at once would be unbearable, but we know it as it happens. We're aware. Which I find a little bit unsatisfying as an answer, but also like, I don't think that there is a satisfying answer to that question. And
although if you think about how the human brain works, and they talk about this, how the human ear and brain, I mean, hearing obviously is, processing thought has a lot to do with the physical ear, but also the brain, or processing sound rather. But, they say like the best sound cancellation device on the planet is like the human brain. And we do it with visual input, with auditory, that, I'm going to guess you've seen it, because if you took any intro to psych class or anything like that in high school, the video where it's a bunch of people playing basketball and you have to count how many times the basketball gets passed. Have you seen this?
I've seen things like it. I don't know if I've seen the exact one, but
listeners, if you want to do a fun little experiment, pause this right now. Go to our show notes, click on the link, follow the instructions on the video, and then come back here, because right now I'm going to tell you why I'm talking about this video. So in the video, you're told to count how many times the basketball is passed between two people. There are a bunch of people playing, and you're paying really close attention, and you count, and then you're asked how many and whatever. And what everybody misses, it doesn't matter. You just miss it the first time, is somebody in a gorilla suit slowly and deliberately walks across the screen.
Yeah.
And you don't see it the first time. And then you scroll back, you watch it, and it's there clear as day. It's no trick of the edit. Like, it just is. And your brain isn't focused on that thing. And so you don't see it. And so I think, like, that makes a kind of sense too.
To me, it connected with anxiety and depression again, because I feel like people who have persistent versions of either of those things, one of the things that happens is that you can't block out the things you need to block out to live your day to day. And so like horrible things are happening all the time, every day in this world. People are dying, people are being tortured, starving, all sorts of awful things are happening. And that we're aware of. It's not like they're happening and we don't know they're happening. And yet, like, I have to do my laundry and, you know.
And yet we get on here and talk about a TV show for 2 hours every week. Like,
absolutely. And so it's part of our daily lives to kind of filter those things out. So that does make sense.
Again, the difference being we don't all have access to it in quite the same way that they do.
Right.
But
the metaphor is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I feel like now as I'm thinking about this scene by scene, I'm seeing each one as its own little explainer. Because the next one is when they're looking at the telescope. And Zosha's explaining where the signal came from, what the planet looks like it's just water on the planet and all this stuff. That we'll never learn the first thing about them probably because they're too far away, but we know we love them and we're grateful to them and we'll pay it forward however long it may take.
That gave me chills.
Yeah.
That is such a, like, I know we sort of knew this is what was happening in the first place, but to have her say it just so clearly to Carol, like, we're going to keep, you know, it'll be your planet and then it'll be the next planet and then it'll be the next one.
We have to share their gift with whoever else might be out there.
When Carol called her to the microscope, Jesus Christ. When Carol was saying like she couldn't see it and Zosha said like we can move it, whatever, and came over toward her, I was like, aha, Carol's going to do something. I don't know what, 'cause she had physical access to her.
Yeah.
Like the whole time, but I was really waiting for some ulterior thing to be going on, which, you know, still there's a window in this office that obviously I don't have in the studio, and so every car that goes by I'm like a dog. Yeah, exactly. But no outwardly ulterior. Like she didn't, I don't know what I thought she could have done that she couldn't have done anywhere else, but like.
Yeah. But it does make it feel like as we're guessing throughout this episode what everyone's motives are, like if you look at it as every scene Carol is gathering new information, if you just look at it from that perspective, you're like, oh, this is an information gathering mission. But it's also emotionally reacting this whole time to Zosha. Because we find out that Zosha really wants, or the hive really wants, more Waikaro. And Carol starts writing it.
Again, if somebody thought I was the best writer on the planet right now, or not the best, but as good, you know, because they love, but, you know, thought I was as good as Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I might be, you know, that person would be easy to fall in love with, I'll bet.
Yeah. And this is around the same time when they start physically interacting. There's something I was listening to another podcast talk about the show, and they were like, there's this, what better way to seduce a writer than to be the only person left on the planet to give them feedback on their work and to love whatever they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then they do go to the diner. And that diner is where I think it starts to turn for Carol.
Totally.
In the moment.
We finally got our Jersey connection, though. Because if you want to win me over, rebuild the diner. Yeah. Rebuild Starview Diner. Starview. I know it sounds like Starve You, and that's funny, but not intentional.
I hadn't even thought about that.
But yeah, rebuild that diner for me and bring back Nance, my favorite waitress. Like, do that for me.
I know. I kept thinking about that. Like, which of the diners I went to growing up would that be for me?
For me, it's 100%. It's the Starview for me,
It'll probably be Twin Oaks.
Nance would be my lady. You'd have to bring back.
Yeah.
She called us all Sweetie Baby together. Sweetie Baby, which is like even like it's like Hun but turned up. Sweetie Baby.
Yeah, I love a Hun.
sometimes she would just take fries off my plate without asking. That's insane. I loved it, but like for a Jersey diner server, like that's bold.
Yeah. Yeah. In this sort of section also, Carol basically is trying, this is somebody I was listening to referred to this as Carol domesticating Zosha, because she's teaching Zosha what she wants, and one of those things is for Zosha to use an I pronoun, even though Zosha is a we. But she's doing it. She's like working with Carol's parameters to kind of create what she thinks she needs.
It is also a good reminder that we keep making the AI analogy, and it's impossible not to, and it is a virus and all that, but they are still in some way or another human. And so it does take Zosha a little while. When she first asks her, Zosha's like, and Carol's like, all the whatever in the world, and you can't figure out a fucking pronoun. Like,
I know. Such a great line. But the moment when they kiss comes so interestingly convenient, comes right as Carol is saying that I still have this intention. Someone has to put the world right, even if it means you all leave me again. And so it's like, of course, it's the time that Zosha initiates
Carol
this.
Is the most vulnerable.
Yeah. It's so manipulative, even though it's like, it doesn't read that way immediately. Yeah. And then the next morning is when she shares her pages with Zosha, and it's so morning after in the creepiest fucking way I've ever seen.
I know. It's really...
Like, Zosha's asking questions about the specifics from the book that, of course, they all know because they have all the knowledge. The caverns of Avalor and all this stuff. It's like, oh, it's so creepy. This is where I really started to get weirded out.
It reminded me so much of Misery. Like, Carol is kind of captive, and the more agreeable she is, the better they treat her. And it all just,
Yeah.
And they think they love her, and, A
lot of this feels to me like Carol is doing a little bit psychologically what Manousos is trying to do physically later on. She's trying to, like, parse out, is there any actual Zosha in there? And if so, who the fuck is Zosha, right?
Right, yeah.
And so, she's asking questions about favorite foods. Zosha says, we all love breakfast food, or we love all breakfast food. And she's like, but what about you? What is Zosha like? And then we get this memory about the mango ice cream and the old man in her neighborhood and all of that from where she was living in Poland. And it's to me, every time we point out the previous lives of these people, it's more tragic what has happened, because she may remember all of this stuff, but it's not hers anymore.
Right.
It's everyone's.
And they show her remembering it pleasantly.
Yeah.
And you wonder if there is, no, you don't wonder if, maybe somebody does. I have to keep reminding myself that the internal monologue, or like what's happening internally for Zosha, is probably not that the real Zosha is trapped underneath and fighting to get out.
Right.
That they're not having, I think about like Animorphs when there's a Yeerk in there, and the Yeerk knows everything and can respond the way that the host body would, and can interact with the people around it as you wouldn't, nobody knows that they're being puppeted, but the mind in there is aware the whole time that it is infected and can converse with the Yeerk, and the Yeerk just kind of has to keep it sublimated, not the right word, keep it suppressed. And that's what I keep imagining here, where I'm like, oh, if you keep poking at Zosha's past memories, and it's sort of what Manousos is trying to do later.
Yeah, it's definitely what Manousos thinks is happening.
Yeah. And I think he's heading in the right direction, but I don't think it's that simple. And so, but it is here when I saw Zosha make a little like happy face, I was like, for a second, I was like, yeah, keep pushing at that. But I don't think it matters.
The next and last thing that happens in this episode is Zosha just kind of freezes.
That's right. And it seems like it's so funny whenever they have to like pause to communicate, they kind of like she's like sort of buffering for a second almost, and then snaps back. She like goes away for a minute, and Carol is scared because I think she thinks something's happening, but she's just getting information that Carol's
she's getting a visitor. Yeah,
who we know is Manusa
on his way in an ambulance. Yeah,
which brings us to
La Chica o El Mundo. The girl or the world.
So good.
Yeah. So Manuso shows up. This episode was so, again, that 3-act structure, 3-act season, 3-act series structure. We get the climax of this journey that we started in the first of this group of 3.
Yeah, we get this really cool and chilling cold open, though.
Yes, we have to talk about the cold open because to me that was like, it was so disorienting because at first I thought it was before the joining, but I literally rewound. I literally scrolled back to the beginning again to see the date, how many days, because I was like, wait, they're interacting like normal. Everyone's talking to each other. It seems very normal. And it was again, what we were just talking about, where a play is being put on for each of them, but it's a different kind of play, right? Carol, they're getting to through a romantic interest that is mimicking her lost partner. And, some of the others, the other unjoined, they're allowing their families, quote unquote families, to be the sort of seduction. And so for Kusumayu, like the play that they're putting on is this loving family that is cooking for her and talking to her and observing the world around her and like making a show of sort of warmth and love and normalcy.
Yeah, and treating this sort of like it felt to me a little bit like a coming of age sort of like ritual or something like that.
Yep.
And
the singing and the ceremony,
on, like tradition and making this feel like just another part of what is already, so specific and part of her world for sure.
And the things that they actually are saying are so chatbot. Like one of them says, the sky is such a deep blue today. And the other one says, and the air smells good. It feels hopeful. And it's like, if you needed a chatbot to write a scene, that's what it would write. And they're talking about how they would never hurt her and, checking in and making sure she's not scared. And we get the montage of the box flying in, the smell box. They put a fart in a box and sent it to her.
This is the big breakthrough they made, that farts are full of stem cells.
Sorry, it's so stupid.
Nobody knew that.
I just don't know why I got to that.
ChatGPT could never.
We can say multitudes.
Hold those two things at the same time.
Yeah. But yeah, so she smells this mist. She has the seizure or whatever that everyone seems to have. I'm not saying it's a seizure, but she starts shaking. But I noted, of course, because this is in that sort of like ritualistic way of working, they like hold her head and like guide her to the ground. And then in one of the creepiest moments, they mid-song stop singing when she joins.
Because they don't need it anymore.
They don't need it. Yep. They all go silent. The only thing you can hear are the animals. The performance is over. It's like when everybody stops after Diabate leaves the room.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. That dead face, like, okay, now we go back to work.
So chilling.
So chilling.
And it gets more and more every time we see one of these.
I got so upset, though, with the goat.
Because there's no one to love or care about the goat anymore.
And the goat was like, you were just holding me. You're my mom. You're my person. And then it tries to follow her. And you've got that sound of, it's literally the sound of like a baby crying.
Yes.
And it's not working on her. It's literally made to work on us, and it's not working on her.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Actually, that reminds me, I was listening again, I keep bringing up other podcasts, but I was listening to somebody talk about the show, and they were saying that the thing that creeped them out the most is like when a baby is born, they cry because of the confusion and the cold and the like their tiny baby brain can't comprehend what just happened. Mm-hmm. If a baby is born into immediate ultimate consciousness, is it just a bunch of silent babies?
God.
Right?
Yeah.
Why would the babies be crying?
Right.
They don't feel emotion like that.
Yeah. And one of the other reasons interesting. Because, one of the other reasons they cry, obviously, is to signal to the caregiver, that's why your babies cry.
And they
lights
don't
up your
need
brain
to do
differently
that.
They don't need to do that. But, however, also, our newborns they're born connected, but their brain, how do they process it?
Yeah, no idea.
Because it's still a baby brain.
Yeah. But the idea of a bunch of silent babies being born just really freaked me out.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
I was curious about the first, because babies have been born joined.
Yeah.
And
Zosha said last episode, 965 babies were born while they were talking.
Right. And so what, because even that is because there are so many things that obviously a family can look like anything. And if you adopt a child, you are just as much its parent. But there are things that if a baby is born and that baby is crying,
mm-hmm.
everybody who's connected responding to that baby cry with the kind of stress hormones and stuff that are released when your baby cries, or is none of it because...
Yeah. This goes to the whole, so there's been a lot of discussion about the like we were talking about, the processing of everything mm-hmm. happening, right? And it's I heard somebody say that it seems like they can feel sympathy, but not empathy.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
It's almost like an observed feeling mm-hmm. versus a felt feeling.
Right.
And so I keep bringing it back to mental illness this episode, but it's people that, constantly intellectualize their feelings in avoidance of feeling them. I don't know who those people are. Other people.
It doesn't
Random. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hear this happens.
I've heard
people.
that's
yeah. Yeah. I've heard this in the wind, but it is sort of the joined are aware of feelings. They say they're happy and blissful and more so than ever before. But this is so existential. Can you have blissful, happy feelings without understanding the opposite?
Right.
I would say no.
What is it to have, because they have all the memories, so they know that the people they are, that they've or have been sad and have been angry and have been scared. And so does that give you enough contrast to be...
To me, the comparison to me is what if you grew up understanding human interaction and emotion from television and movies?
Right.
You could maybe identify different emotions that people are having and why and the stories behind them and all of that. But if you haven't experienced them directly from a person in front of you, there's a disconnect. I don't know. That's sort of the way that my mind is thinking about it. If I was one of the joined and thinking about my own life, would it be looking at a movie of my life?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Because how else would you not have negative emotional reactions to things?
Right. Yeah. If you're not, that's a good point.
How would you not have sadness? Everyone has had sadness in their life at some point.
Right.
So it's just so flattening. I don't think that the happiness and bliss they're talking about is actually happiness and bliss the way we think of it, because that needs something to react to or bounce off of.
I think you're right.
We got very metaphysical there for a second, but in contrast to that, we have a physical meeting between Carol and Manousos that is so, I love, God, this reminded me, the physical comedy in this reminded me of the drone getting stuck on the light post.
Yes.
With the phone falling into the sewer.
And they're pathetic little struggle over it. And it's also really nice to see Carol get to like openly fight angrily with someone.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that the phone doesn't recognize her name every time it tries to translate unknown word or name.
Also, what a clever way for the show to do this for us and for them to be able to communicate but still have a little barrier. And it just all, I loved everything about it.
Yeah. But, you know, the lead up to this, she is not receptive to him in the way she would have been before her isolation. She would have been ecstatic if somebody was coming to help her save the world.
I really loved how frustrating this encounter was. It was just really compelling to watch the two of them push up against each other in a way that neither one of them have. Yes, exactly.
It's human.
Exactly.
Like there's no that ease that AI or that the hive or whatever gives you of constantly trying to respond exactly as you want them to. Not happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get back in your ambulancia and fuck right off. I'm finito. It's so good. And Manu says, well, this is just going great.
Yeah, it's also fun, too, to see him kind of, because he's been, again, so focused and has had purpose and has been so, you know, in one register kind of this whole time. I don't know, that sounds like I think Vesca's so good.
No, he's been very single-minded.
But yeah, for him to have to like kind of reflect on how things are going now and just all of that really
he's flustered.
And
so is she.
She refers to the joined as the others, and he refers to them as the weirdos.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to the Prestige TV podcast who's been referring to them this whole time as the unlicked. Because of the licking the donut.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. They put together, we would never have the wherewithal to do this, but they always create a new email address if they're doing a show, and theirs is like lickingthedonut@gmail.com.
Really good.
Yeah. But he is very hyper aware of the surveillance of all of it. And that, again, I can't turn off this part of my brain. I'm sorry. I wish I could. But it reminds me how much people of color are surveilled versus white people. She is so much less concerned about the surveillance aspect. And it's also time. It's also she's gotten used to it. She was much more concerned about it. But like, even in the beginning, she was willing to like make some compromises and like use the surveillance of it all.
Right.
And he's asking for an umbrella. He doesn't want to go in the house because he thinks it's bugged. It's just like, it's hard to remove the migrant part of this from my brain, partly because they talk about it a lot on the official pod as well. It's not like they're not doing this with knowledge of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's relevant, especially because it is so fascinating to see how these two different people respond and why, and that context matters.
Yeah.
Sure. Because that's the thing, too, is it's not just that, you know, Manusos feels more surveilled. It's that the stakes are much higher or at least in his mind, because he sees these people as more of a threat, which we know they are, but it just in practice is much less of a threat or in theory, I guess, I don't know, one of those for Carol than for Manusos.
Well, and he's gone to the extreme with it in his head already. He's basically saying, like, if we can't fix them, then we should kill them.
Yeah.
And she has not gotten to that point. She wants to fix them or maybe just let it be for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He also puts words to the question or the conversation that has kind of been following the show the whole time, which is like, if you can't kill anything,
right,
isn't that just as destructive? Right? Like he says, isn't it evil to value a man the same as an ant? And it's like, that is kind of one of the core questions.
Right.
They do eventually go inside. And of course, we have a little reappearance of Helen in the surveillance conversation.
This is so tough.
I know, especially because it had been there for so long. Like she put it there back in 2011, I guess, when they were, when she was freezing her eggs.
Yeah, to make sure that Carol
Chekhov's frozen eggs.
Yep. And it just, the way Carol is so angry at them for thinking that, and then the way that she deflates when she figures it out. But she tells Manusos about it. The way she didn't like the way I glug, glug, glug.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
Oh, that's the other thing that's really nice about the like translator app and stuff is the joke here isn't that Manusos doesn't speak English. Because that's like a really, like, it happens a lot. It's really lazy. It's cheap. It's that these two have a communication barrier and they're both fumbling and they're both trying and they're both being kind of like, and that's where the comedy of it is. It's not, look at this guy in America who can't communicate.
Yeah, we always think of English as, well, we, people from America tend to think of English as the default and that people are speaking other languages. And it's like, no, he is speaking the language that is spoken where he is from, and she is speaking the language that's spoken where she is from. But he has been forced to go to where she is from because he needs to save the world. He is Medusa's Ovieda, and he is not one of them.
And Carol isn't going to Colombia, so...
Nope. She's given up. She brings him next door to one of the empty houses where, again, this is what I mean. He's the rigidity is softening a little bit, just faced with reality over and over and over again. He doesn't want to stay in the house because it's not her house. And she's just
really, at this point, I was like, dude.
Yeah.
I know. On. At this point, come on.
And she says, if they come back somehow, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
But I don't like him snapping at her.
Hated that.
Nobody ever should snap at somebody to get their attention. That's rude. But he is Carol when she was on her caper. He's like motivated. He's got ideas. He's got thoughts about what's happening. He wants to test some theories. He calls Zosha to come to the house.
It's so funny. He's doing the right thing, I think, overall.
Yeah.
But they've done such a good job of making me care about Zosha. And then in a weird way, by extension, the rest of them, like, I was like, don't you dare.
Yeah.
Who gives you the right
to talk to Carol Zosha?
Yeah.
That's how Carol felt.
I know. It is like, because Carol has really been like, I know you say that we're all special, but
I'm the most special.
I'm the most special. Which, like, that's the other thing where it's like, this is not as kind as they think, because she should be the most special at this point. She has spent the most time with them. She is right now giving them what they want. She's behaving as best she knows how. And also, she and Zosha, or I guess it kind of really escalates after this, but like, are engaged in it's hard to, like, on the surface, what feels like a romantic relationship. Like,
and at this point they are. Like, in the previous episode, we see them cooking dinner together in the kitchen after they have had some intimacy, whatever that is, creeping me out. Anyway.
I just can't stop. I said it to you. I don't think I said it on the podcast. Because they hadn't slept together yet. I said if Carol has sex with Zosha, or any of them, I guess, but at the time. And now they all go back to normal. Will everybody on the planet know what it is like to have sex with Carol Sturka? Will they retain that memory? I think so, because they retain their memories pre-joined. Like, I don't think that all gets compartmentalized. I mean, maybe it does, but...
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, so far, there's no evidence that it would be.
Right. So anyway.
No, I know. But it's really like, the conflict is so on the surface here of like, what would happen in the human world where you've developed a relationship with someone. Obviously, they're not going to just randomly show up and care just as much about someone they've just met. And the reality of now in the show, which is, yes, they care about everyone the same because there's no division. She says, you're my, and ends up using the word chaperone, but no, definitely not meaning chaperone.
No.
She told him everything. Todos.
Yeah. I mean, of course she did. And it's funny, too, because, like, it's not funny. I get it. But Carol, he's just doing his version of what Carol has been doing. Like,
yeah,
you know, he asks questions and they're answering.
And he's experimenting. So after this, she goes home with Carol. They're talking. And then Zosha says something's about to happen and lays down. And that's how Carol figures out that Manusos is doing something to someone. And it's like, well, he's experimenting on them the same way you gave her truth serum.
Right.
Like 3 episodes ago.
Also...
Same exact thing. You're fucking with their physical safety to get to get your answers. That's exactly what she did.
Right. Carolina's, I mean, she's great. We've said that already this episode, but just her delivery in that whole scene when she goes to lay down on the floor and tell Carol something's about to happen is perfect.
Yeah. I know she's trying to reassure Carol in the moment.
It's an interesting kind of concern too. She's like not as serene as usual, but it is not the same way you might react if you knew there's a chance you're about to die. Like, die. So,
right.
This physical body.
But what Manousos is doing is that radio frequency that he found that is the only one that has anything on it, which notably, just to jump back real quick, Carol was listening to the radio in the previous episode, which obviously is another version of a performance for her. The play that everyone is putting on, they created a radio station for her to listen to.
Yeah, I thought about that because at first in that episode, she's singing
to herself.
There's no radio. So at some point they did that for her. And I thought about like somebody like going into a radio station and like pretending to be a DJ, but for just
for Carol.
Just for Carol. Again, okay, that's my dream. But like, yeah. So
anyway, so he's playing with the radio frequency, and it is interesting because we kind of get confirmation that the frequency does have something to do with it because it's changed when he is creating this reaction in them. The sound changes. So what he seems to be doing is trying to interrupt the transmission from the radio station, which is 8613, notably, just as for numbers people. And he's trying to interrupt it and then use that break in the frequency to like reach the actual person.
Right, because he thinks, and I think it's a good theory that if you can interrupt it, this is kind of what I was talking about before when I said like, is the person, it doesn't seem like the person of it is kind of hiding underneath. Yeah. But he seems to think that it is. Yeah. And so, we don't get much more than that here. But also,
no, because Carol shoots the shotgun at the wall to stop him.
It's unbelievable. The Vesca's face when he does that scream, it was a genuine jump scare for me. I did not expect that. And the way he's like up, I think the way I'm remembering it is that he's upside down because I think you see it from the perspective of the other. Yeah. Really scary.
But Carol is totally, in 3 episodes or 2 months now is like protecting the hive. She's protecting Zosha. She like runs back to the house, gives her water, checks in with her, makes sure she's okay.
It's interesting to see her have a physical reaction, Zosha. Like we know that they have physical bodies that feel pain and stuff. We've seen what happens when Carol, but there was something that felt really human about like her voice being a little scratchy and I don't know. And her having a need, like when she asks for water, it's just like,
Lakshmi calls.
I love that.
Screw you too, Lakshmi.
Really fun. And just Lakshmi, that whenever anything happens, that she's immediately on the phone to
Carol.
Yeah. I loved it so much.
I hope that Lakshmi doesn't join. We need her like spirit of fuck you to still exist. But, this is the splitting, right? This is where Manousos literally says, the girl, do you want to save the world or get the girl?
What a good line.
Yeah.
That ruled.
And
save
we
the
get our
save
answer.
The world.
Yeah. And we get our answer. This montage is super, again, the rom-com vibes are here. So she's swimming in a pool while Carol reads Ursula Le Guin by the side of in a lounge chair and watches her. Come on.
I was like, this moment, like, it almost felt like it could have been a series finale, just like a bleak one,
right.
Where it ends just with that one particular scene of them kind of not isolated, but away. And
it felt like a dream too. Like it was filmed a little bit like a dream sequence.
It was filmed. It gets more and more so when they're walking along the beach and those cliffs are there. Yeah. That's one of the notes for Carol's Next by Caro, or like the cliffs of wherever.
Right.
And it's shot as if
they're like in the book.
Like she's there with Raban living out, again, I kind of get it, like living out this dream life.
You know, they go skiing and the ski lift stops immediately as they get off. So her stuff is still there. She doesn't have to wait for it to come back. Like it's very wish fulfillment. It felt a little bit like, even though in the moment you're thinking, well, what? She's never going to want this to end. Like, it feels a little bit like the wish fulfillment before an end of something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like it can't last forever. Which it can't.
Because we knew it.
Yeah. I saw some people with the eggs thing be like, you can't get stem cells from eggs. You can't, but you can, there's like a long involved process that you can try to do to see if you can and whatever. Like, who cares? The science is like enough checked out that
I don't think
it's plausible.
You can't like directly.
Right.
But then I was like, until she said, how much time do I have? And she said maybe a month. I was like, are they gonna like impregnate somebody? And
yeah, no, that was something that at one point people were commenting that maybe Zosha was pregnant, and I was like, that's a bridge too far. Like, and thank God they didn't go there.
They didn't do that, because then I was also like, at what point, you know, what? Curious to know where the hive mind think life begins. You know,
I know.
Is it at the moment of conception?
Yeah.
Because
no, totally.
You can't hurt. How are you getting this?
Yeah, no, exactly. But Carol's illusion is shattered here. She's like talking about happiness hormones, and I do think it's important to note that, like, as someone who is kind of classified by this show as a misanthrope and a person who cannot be happy, this is her being actually quite happy for this section of time. She seems genuinely, like, we realize we haven't actually seen Carol truly smile very much until this sequence. Yeah. Like big, laughing, large smiles.
And it's very different from, it's cool that they showed us Carol living the idea of her best life in the first half of the episode. Not her best life, but like what on the surface would be, you know, playing golf and going to museums. Last episode, and going out to a fancy dinner with all her favorite food. And there's no joy in any of that. And then she does, seem genuinely happy here, which is...
It's like a repeat of episode 7, but with someone.
Yeah, and it is with everyone. And it is, like, I really kind of struggled with it because, knowing what's actually going on here and seeing Carol kind of give over to it. And I
kind of felt like this, and again, I have no evidence for this, but maybe just the way that she reacts when she and Zosha are having the conversation about the stem cells, it kind of feels to me like she has known all along that there's a catch. Mm-hmm. Like, she doesn't seem shocked.
No.
She seems a little bit resigned when she says, like, that my eggs, the ones I froze with Helen, you have them, don't you? And Zosha says, we do. And she says, and you can make those into stem cells, can't you? And she says, she tells, this is where Kusamayu comes back in. She says, the young Peruvian girl, she just joined us. I promise you she's happier than she's ever been. And she finds out that she only has a month, hopefully no more than 2 or 3.
Hopefully no more than 2 or 3. When they know that is not Carol's. It's not a hopefully for Carol, and that they still frame it that way. Yeah.
She says, please understand we have to do this because we love you. Because Carol says, if you loved me, you wouldn't do this.
That exchange is really rough.
Yeah. It's like, we know what's better for you.
Exactly.
And this is like a breakup montage now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the every breakup where your partner or ex-partner takes you home in a helicopter with your atom bomb.
But dropping you off at your house with all of your things.
And the awkward goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, most of us don't travel with an atom bomb, but,
I really thought for a second that Carol was in the box because we don't really see how she reacts after that moment. It's like a kind of like you cut right to. And so I was like, is it because they were all so afraid that Carol was going to like scream and kill everyone? So they had to like...
They put her in a padded box.
Yeah.
Hopefully the bomb is in a padded box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about an atom bomb to know the practicality of going from having, like, first of all, of having it on your front lawn to using it.
No, I know. I mean,
I think it's a symbolic gesture on both sides.
Yeah, so just to kind of finish out the episode, like, she comes back. We see them, Sosha, drop her off with this box. Minusos has seen the helicopter coming in, is kind of hiding from it. After it takes off, he and Carol see each other. And Carol sighs and says, "You win. We save the world."
We save the world. It's really good.
He says, "Carol Sturka, what is this?" And she says, "Atom bomb." And that's it. That's it.
I just don't think there's a bad note in this season. I think it's so just...
I have seen negative reactions, not a lot, but I have seen negative reactions to the finale with the, like, atom bomb reveal and the, like, lack of... What I saw was that this feels very much like they knew the whole time they were getting a second season, and this feels like it should be like a half season break or something, because it's the atom bomb being such a potent, like, ticking time bomb, like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't know. Well, I
don't know that I agree with that, but yeah.
I mean, one thing is we know that wasn't the original ending that Vince and the team wanted, that they went back and forth quite a bit and, like, suggested a few different endings, and this is the one that they came to and were happy with. But I think because I don't think Carol can't do anything with that bomb, actually. Like, I don't imagine she can.
I mean, I don't know. Minusos is reading books on the Faraday cages and
that
physics.
Made me laugh so hard.
And looking up
he's
words.
Just going to become. Yeah. That's
maybe
what a crash course in.
She'll go to the library and take out, like, atomic physics books. I don't know. Nuclear physics?
You'll have to ask them. They'll tell her. But I do think I said it kind of jokingly.
Wait. You said that very flippantly, but it is true. She could ask them
to
to help her set off the bomb.
Yeah, but I don't think,
or ask them how it worked, and they would have to tell her.
They would have to tell her that. I don't think they would have to help her. They can't lie to her,
right?
But they also can't hurt anything, and setting off a bomb certainly would.
Certainly, but she could ask them how to set it off, and they would probably have to tell her.
But I think, I mean, again, I know nothing about how an atom bomb works. But I think that, like, you probably
I'm not
need more than. Yeah, exactly. You probably need more than just the bomb itself, is my guess.
Of course.
But what I said jokingly, or not jokingly, but just kind of like said earlier, is I think it's more of a symbolic gesture on both ends. I think that's probably more the case, is that they want her to know that they'll still do anything for her, you know, and they'll provide anything she wants, and she wants them to know that she's not fucking around.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of what's going on here than Carol's actually going to use that bomb for something.
No, that makes sense to me. I mean, it's definitely like it's a symbol for the idea of, like, nuclear weapons as deterrence. It's like,
right, yeah.
You know.
So, but yeah, I liked the ending. I'm curious to how, my guess is the ending was that they originally suggested was very similar, just maybe minus the bomb. It was just this, like, Carol finds out they have a sad breakup. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they referred to it as softer, the original endings options. So that would make sense to me. Yeah, now we just have to wait. And, like,
I hate waiting.
It took them a long time to make this first season. So I am a little concerned about that. But
I know. I'm really like mourning it in a way that I don't like. Yellow Jackets for sure.
Yeah.
I felt that way about, but it's been such an absolute delight watching the show week to week and getting to put new, like, wrinkles in my brain.
Yeah, it does. It feels like it's both beautiful to watch and entertaining and funny, and also, like you said, like, kind of puts new wrinkles in your brain, because it is asking questions that you're like, wow, Vince Gilligan's brain is a wonder. Like, what else is in there?
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's not just like, you know, Yellow Jackets, there's a mystery that could have a pretty straightforward answer at some point, like, or not mystery, like there are questions, when we joke about like jokingly theorize that we're watching somehow a documentary sort of that's being made kind of, or it's like that would be the answer. And with this show, it's asking mystery, where did the virus come from, all that, but it's also asking much bigger questions that we don't have easy answers to, and getting both of those in one show.
It's very difficult.
And that is all of the other things you just said, all of that happening at once is...
Yeah, it's a lot to put together and still have it be entertaining and not heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Which it really is. It really works.
And it feels, I loved Breaking Bad. I told you I didn't watch Better Call Saul. We've talked about that a lot. But like Breaking Bad was great and was fun in a different way to watch. But I never felt good watching Breaking Bad in a way that I feel good watching this show. Even when it is asking really scary, intense questions.
No, it's true. I know exactly what you mean. Like there's certain shows that I will watch because they're intricate and I admire them and the storytelling is really interesting and the themes are interesting. But I don't, like you just said, I don't feel good after it. Like I feel like amazed or interested or intellectually.
I had a feeling, and that's good.
Yeah.
To feel anything, but yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, we're going to have to wait, unfortunately, to find out what happens with the bomb. Yeah.
Do you have anything else about this season overall that you want to?
Oh, just that I think my big takeaway is, well, two things. One, let people make original content.
Yes.
Like, let people make things that aren't a reboot of something else. Like, let original ideas breathe. And then the other is, I think my big takeaway from this is like how much you can do with, and when I say so little, I know that sounds crazy for a show this expensive with this much Hollywood power behind it. But I mean just from a very basic sense of like, many episodes with like not a lot of dialogue, episodes where not a lot plot wise, if you really look at it, actually happens. Like the plot's advanced in fits and starts. And there's lots of sections where like we're just following Carol along in her day, and how you can still make that fascinating and say a lot without it being like super over articulated.
Yeah. And it also points to like how much you can do when you have a really strong premise that is also very, like, in a way simple, because the show is, what if everybody on Earth except for one or a handful of people became connected? That's it.
Yeah.
And then everything else comes out from there.
Yeah. And what does it do to you when everyone is accommodating, at least on the surface, in a way that removes friction?
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's an incredible like execution of a very simple idea.
Yeah. It's like one idea that then asks, because I was just thinking of 10 other ways you could frame the premise of this show.
Yeah.
And it's just like, a thing that happens, and then so many complex questions that come from it, but it all boils down to this one thing. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Get to work, Vince. We need season 2.
Yeah. We're not going to get into all of the sound design stuff. I would love to, but they just do such a good job talking about it. If you haven't listened to that podcast at all, I really recommend going and listening to that one. I like teared up a few times to hear people take sound design so seriously, but also like explain why it's so important and what's so intricate and careful and why you have to be so nuanced about it in ways that are really accessible, and not because I don't know, of what the general public knows about like sound engineers and whatnot, but we are not known for being the most like open and accessible in that way. So
yeah,
I loved it. That conversation. It was my favorite of the see the podcast season so far, but and it's only 25 minutes long.
We'll save that for when we start recapping other podcasts.
We're going to recap their recap podcast.
Yeah.
We're only going to recap podcasts, actually.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Don't give me ideas.
I know, right?
The thing that's so cool, and then this is all I'll say about it, I promise, is them talking about the difference between actual silence and emptiness, and the fact that like because their sound team is so good, they were able to get really clean recordings of the dialogue, and then it was too empty, and then so they had to like work to get the right amount of sound back in to make each environment sound, and like sometimes just the actual sound of the place had too much sound, like too much stuff going on. And so they had to be careful about what they put back in and the layers and nuance there to make it feel realistic, even if it's not exactly realistic. And like certain things, like they had some natural sounds when they were recording in Colombia ended up sounding like traffic, even though it wasn't traffic. And so they had to pull that stuff out. It's just very cool. And again, just that difference between, that's why like, one thing like, podcasts without an actual audio engineer working will often make the mistake of, and you can notice, is the difference between like if you and I don't talk for a few seconds versus if I
that
just
was so hard
versus if I just cut our audio, which I will do right now while I'm editing for that same amount of time, and our listeners will hear the difference there. It's just, I think that stuff is so cool and interesting, and what we don't notice that we're noticing, kind of like what happens in that video I talked about earlier. But yeah, that's all I want. I mean, I want to say a million things, but that's all that I'm gonna say here. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think that those podcasts, at the risk of making us go on for too long, after I just said we were going on for too long, they added something that official podcasts almost never add, which is more technical information for people who care about that, which I really appreciate. You and I
want from other, like, I'll do all the recapping and thinking about it myself. What I want is the stuff we don't often get access to.
Yeah. Tell me what lens you use. Tell me how you used a screen to simulate the lights outside. Like, I want to know all that.
I remember how excited you and I got when we found a site like breaking down the lighting in one specific building in Station 11. I was like, yes, I want this stuff for everything.
I know. Give me all the details.
Mm-hmm. It was so cool to have them just bring in different, like, again, the sound team, it was so nice to be like, to have those teams get recognized is
absolutely. Yeah. They had editors on, they had the DOP on, they had all sorts of like behind the scenes people. It was great. Anyway, okay. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So that is our Pluribus coverage. We unfortunately will have no more Pluribus to cover.
No, but in 5 years when we do, we'll probably do it week to week. We'll definitely do it week to week.
Yeah, definitely. In the meantime,
5 years to catch up.
Right. In the meantime, however, we will have to do other things, sadly. So next week,
we're going to recap another TV show. It's a week to week show that is starting up in 2 weeks, I guess, from when this goes up, a little over, but like a week and a half.
January 11th. Yeah.
And it's a show that you recommended, which is.
So I recommended this show last week, actually. As one of my 5 favorite things of the year. I had lots of caveats about its possibilities for triggering people when it came to loss, other things. But I also really did think this show was really well done and a unique example of combining a procedural with like a prestige TV vibe, which was The Pitt.
The Pitt. And you've been recommending it before the podcast last week.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I stayed away from it is because I was like, oh, it's like ER, but really good, or Grey's Anatomy, but really good. And it's not that. Like, because I was like, I don't need to, I didn't watch those shows in the first place, so I don't need a really good version of one.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's like you said, feels like prestige TV with the same setting. And procedural, you're right about that. It's like week to week, kind of like case to case. But what makes it feel different to me is how thoughtful the character development is that idea that you pointed out, which is it's one shift. So every episode is an hour in the day. So it's basically in real time. They're less than an hour, but because, you know, you don't, I guess they're cutting out the time of like people walking down the hallway when they're not talking to somebody or whatever, like that kind of thing. But they're like around 50 minutes each. And so because of that, you really get to spend time getting to know everybody, including the patients. You get to check in. And I said to you, it's like great for a person with ADHD because you spend in the same way that like doctors and nurses do. They're not spending a ton of time with each patient. They're like checking in and checking out, and you get to do the same thing. And I think that's really compelling and interesting. But because it's over such a short period of time, you know, just a few hours, 15, the growth gets to, I don't know, it just, you really get to dig in. That's what it is. And also it made me cry, and it's pretty gory. Just, that was a trigger you didn't give, even though I should have known it's a medical show. A trigger warning rather. But it's also really funny and really warm. And it's people who know each other really well because they've worked together forever. So they all have like a really fun, almost like found family kind of feel rhythm. I loved everybody immediately. Like immediately everybody, except for one person who I hate. But
what I felt about the people in it when I really looked back and thought about it and why I reacted the way I did, it's if you've had a lot of experience with hospitals and all of that, like these are the people you hope are there when you are dealing with the worst time in your life. This is the ideal version. The hospital itself, maybe not. The circumstances of the medical industry, no. But like, if you are having one of the worst days of your lives, you want Dr. Robbie to be the person to break it to you and tell you about like how to cope. Like,
I love him so much. Not that these characters are all like perfect.
They're definitely not perfect
at all. They're very complex and they feel really real. Again, in a way that I think characters on the kinds of shows that this one is sort of in a way modeled after don't often get to be. So I highly go watch one episode. The first episode's fantastic. If you like that episode, I mean, I'm not even totally done this season yet. But if you like that episode, and it's another one where I don't look at my phone when I watch it.
Yeah. And I don't often rewatch things unless we're doing it for the podcast. And I just kind of voluntarily rewatched this while I was knitting a sweater like a couple weeks ago because I didn't have anything new. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to recommend it. And maybe I'll put on the first episode and see if I really still feel that way. And then I just watched the whole thing. So
I totally get that because it's like it also, if you thought Pluribus was a little slow, it moves fast. You are like every scene, something is going on. Like,
yes.
Or so people are being kind and or tough but fair to each other.
Yes, exactly. So that's going to do it for us for this week. 7 hours later, because Pluribus is hard not to keep going on about, but
we'll get this edit down for you listeners, don't you worry.
So we will talk about the Pitt season 1 next week to kind of catch everyone up. So if you haven't watched it yet, you got some catching up to do.
15 hours.
Yeah, no big deal.
It moves so fast. You're gonna love it.
And I think it's not exactly a secret show. A lot of people have already seen it.
Yeah,
so.
we'll have seen it.
Yeah, but so next week we'll do a recap of season 1, a conversation about all of this stuff that we started to dip into, and then we'll go from there. Until next week, if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at watcherspodnj@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at watcherspodnj. You can give us a phone call, leave us a voicemail, for us to listen to / play on the show at
856-336-8986.
And you can find me on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM.
And I'm at AQ Andrea Q.
And as we always say, bang yourself on the head, get in the car,
go to New Jersey.